The reality check, though, when we're talking to customers, and you can see the list on your screen, is these kinds of things are happening out there. So companies are under pressure to cut price, even if they've had a long history of service, and that's what I heard in the seminar this morning, was even though we've got great relationships, irrespective of that, we're being asked to lower the price. And of course, going with that is the volume dropping, the competitors are getting desperate, large players are moving down market to take smaller pieces of business because they need the small business to make up for the losses of some large accounts. There's negativity, and in some cases the sales cycle is increasing. In other cases, the sales cycle is actually being reduced. It's shrinking, and I'm seeing that even in our business where we're getting very short-term go-aheads on projects instead of long notice, and other projects are getting stalled out. And the last bullet sort of deals with the sales funnel. And despite all of that, of course, we need to grow the business both in the short and long term. So let me talk about the sales funnel for a minute. What we mean by a sales funnel is something that looks like this. Just a standard funnel like you'd use to, pour in water, or, sugar, those types of things. In good times, the sales funnel is quite slender, and the velocity of deals is quite strong. So you have, relatively fewer prospects to generate the number of quotes and the orders. What happens in tough times is that sales funnel really widens out on the top. So it gets much wider. It's kind of the difference between a champagne flute on the left and a martini glass on the right. And although martinis are nice, in a sales funnel it's not as nice because it takes more prospects in the top of the funnel to generate the same amount of quoting volume and therefore generate the orders. Now what I'm hearing this morning is that for some people it probably looks a bit like a bulge around the quotes. That is, there's lots of quoting activity, but the quotes are sort of getting constricted before they're turning into orders. The good side of that, though, is that people are shopping, and that means that there is some potential demand for orders both in the short and long term. So in good times, most prospects become customers, and the sheer volume of opportunities creates complacency. So this is what we see when sales people can be caught flat-footed. In good times, they're just so used to writing orders, and in the tough times, things change. And so in the difficult times, it takes more prospects to generate the same amount of sales. Probably not a big surprise to you as you're listening to this that this is what's happening. It just is important because not only in the short term do we want to turn things around and make our sales go up, we need to remember as good times return that we need a constant focus on new business development in order to continue to grow and be profitable. So what are some of the ramifications of this? It means that we're typically doing more prospecting. I'm going to propose to you today that it isn't just the sales group that needs to be involved in growing sales. It needs to be everyone. And of course, tweaking the sales techniques, which we'll be dealing with a little bit today, and ultimately being a little sharper because customers are getting much better at negotiating. So we're going to cover off these things throughout this webinar. Now, part of the challenge is moving from being order takers to being order makers. So order takers are typically, they look after existing accounts, they don't really go after much new business unless it falls in their lap, and they're always too busy to go after new business. So their day-to-day, what I would term the whirlwind from our session that I attended with COPA, keeps us from sort of doing the new business development. And you could call these folks farmers in terms of being order takers. On the other side, you've got order makers. They're actively prospecting business. They're looking to grow the business within existing customers, and they're more of a hunter. And so one of the things that we are going to discuss is how to move from being a farmer, that is looking after the existing, and also be a hunter, or at least acknowledge that there's these two sort of areas. And at the bottom you can see that I've asked the question, what are your expectations and consequences? So how we want to motivate people in order to bring in new business, because otherwise people will hibernate and wait until the market improves, and then they'll just continue to take orders instead of making things happen. So I've got 3 ideas that I'm going to share with you as far as sort of how to shift people from being order takers into order makers. And of course, one of the things is the fundamental selling skills, and I'll show you those 5 steps in just a minute. The second thing is to manage with lead measures. Now, this isn't a new concept, but again, it was nice that the Office Products Association had Franklin Covey in, and they talked about the balance between lead measures and lag measures. So lead measures are the things that predict your future sales performance. Lag measures is the sales number itself, and I'll give you a couple of examples in a minute. And then the third thing, in order to take people from being order takers or complacent and making them into order makers, is to create some positive and negative consequences. So my father and I wrote the book, Employees Not Doing What You Expect. And you can imagine the number one reason why people don't do what we expect is they don't understand what the expectations are. After they understand the expectations, one of the questions becomes, what are the consequences? And we normally think of consequences as punishment, but really in this case we're saying the consequence is just what happens if you do something and what happens if you don't do something.
Hi, it's Greg Schinkel, and I hope that you've been enjoying this preview of our webinar on growing sales in a recession. And you can watch the entire 60-minute webinar recording for only $24.95, and that's a savings of 66% from the original cost of $79. You can download the file and show it at your next sales meeting at no extra charge, or you can also buy it as a DVD and we'll ship it out to you very quickly. To download it or buy the DVD, visit us at our website at uniquedevelopment.com. Look for the link under videos, and we'll process your order and get this out to you right away so that you and your sales team can increase your sales in this recessionary environment.